Great. Hi, everyone. It's great to have you on my channel today. Super awesome. I would always ask that you like, share, and subscribe to my channel so I could continue doing these wonderful videos that I'm sure you like to see, right? Great. Today, I'll be doing a topic that I'm super passionate about. It's auditing, or being a great auditor, like I'll call it. However, I'll be basing most of the things that I'm saying today on my experience and ISO 19011, 19011. Whatever way you want to call it, I would keep calling it 19011 all through this series. And I would also find some time to deep dive into the standard, maybe different sessions as we go forward. But it would be great to have you see my perspective and how to be a great auditor. For those of you who are meeting me for the first time, I'm Dominic Wangbarocha. I'm a chemical engineer by background. I have an MBA in finance and investment. I am an ISO 9001 lead auditor as well as the ISO 22000 lead auditor. And I also am certified with Six Sigma. I have over 10 years experience in manufacturing, from household care, cosmetics, chemical manufacturing, pharmaceutical manufacturing. And it's from all of those basics and areas that I will be talking to you today about auditing, why I love it, what's interesting about it, why you should think about it, why you should consider it rather, and how you could be a great auditor if you already auditing. So today, what would be our objectives? All of those things I have said, plus understanding the background on which ISO 19011 is based, the overview of the standard, the structure, and how you could evaluate competency of an auditor, or even set the standard of what the competency of an auditor in your organization should be. I think this is what we'll do. So we'd also look at what is ISO, what is the structure, what are types of audits that we have, what are the terms and definitions we could find within audit and auditor and auditee, what findings are, what observations are, what audit criteria are, and all of that. But what is ISO? I always love to use this example of a USB to define ISO. As you can see, what I have here is a USB, right? These can be plugged into varying computers. I doubt this is for my mouse, right? I doubt there's one now that's, I've not seen a C-type USB for the mouse, but this just tells you what a standard is. And this is one of the things that ISO does to ensure that we can standardize the systems across organizations. So this establishment was created in 1947 in Geneva, Switzerland, and we have over 160 national standards instituted from countries all around the regions of the world. And they are the largest developer of voluntary international standards. So when we are looking at the standards that ISO has made, then we know yes, we're in the right track or following the right path. Great. So the structure that we have for ISO 19011 is there's an introduction, there's a scope, normative references like you have in other ISO standards, right? Terms and definitions, principles of auditing. For this session, I'll be looking at the principles of auditing and the last three: managing an audit program, conducting an audit, and competency and evidence evaluation of auditors. What are the competencies that you require from the auditor? What is the evaluation of the auditor that we should look at? How should we evaluate auditors? We'll look at all of this. I'll tell you what you really need to look out for when you audit and how you should audit, how you should conduct your audit, and how you should get the auditors that should be part of the audits. What's the overview? I've mentioned principles of audits. We'll talk about that shortly. Managing an audit program next. Conducting the management of system audits and the evaluation of competence. That's the last thing we look at today. Audit types. There are three types of audits. An audit actually is systematic and independent examination to determine whether the quality activities and related results comply with planned arrangements. I'll rather tell you, I have put a set of standards that I want to follow in my organization or in my business, a small business, for example, when we consistently go out of it, then we are going out of the set standards, right? Or the interrelated activities. An audit is to come help verify that we're still within the set principles. And if not, how can we come back, retrace our steps? So audit is basically for improvement. This is what I always want auditors to have at the back of their minds. They should keep this improvement mindset first, then the risk-based thinking. This is what audit is about. It's not about finding faults. It's about improving a system. Once you have this at the back of your mind, then when you have an observation or you have a finding, then you will drive it towards improving that system. There are three types of audit: the first party audit, the second party audit, and the third party audit. It's well defined here, but I will use examples. When you are auditing your business as an internal auditor, auditing my organization, that's an internal audit. I have SOPs or standards that I have developed internally based off a regulatory standard internally, and I will audit my business, my SME, my organization, my manufacturing unit. Then that's an internal audit. When I have people who supply me packaging materials that I use to package my finished products, and I go to audit them, that's a second party audit, or what you call an external provider audit, or external interested party audit, right? When I, as a business, want to get standardized, for example, I want to get the ISO 9001 certification audit, or the FSMS certification audit, then that's a third party audit, because I'm calling people from external to come audit me to get me certified. Or when someone like EMA, the European Medicines Agency, or the FDA, or the ANVISA, or NAFDAC is coming to audit my organization, that's also a third-party audit. So these are the different types of audits, and it's very important that we know them, so we also know how to approach it or how to receive it as an auditor or an auditee. Great. Here are some definitions that I think we need to know as we go through this training. So quality system, the organizational structure, responsibilities, procedures, processes, all of these are what you use in implementing quality management, right? That is what a quality system is. Those bricks, I call them building blocks, which makes a robust quality management system, is the quality system, the quality management. So observation is what you find during an audit. It's a fact, a statement of fact during an audit, and substantiated by an objective evidence. As we go through, we'll understand what an objective evidence is and how we should get one. For me, it could be qualitative or quantitative, like I've mentioned here. For me, I always advise and want people that as they gather objective evidence, please, if permitted by the auditee, take pictures. This is what I've learned in course of my auditing career. Take pictures. Take a picture. We all have smartphones these days. Maximize it. Take a picture, put a note, and put it in your notes. Save it, because when you're writing your audit report, you don't want to be lost. You don't want to wonder, what happened here? Why can't I remember? Or you are being challenged during your closing remarks by one of the auditee that this was not the case. You have an evidence to show. Please take pictures, use them for objective evidence. What is a non-conformance? It's when a particular requirement is not being fulfilled against what is being stated. We have stated that once there's a mistake or an error, it should be struck once, signature and date should be written. And I go around during my audit and I find out that people scribble and try to hide what is being written. Then I would call this a non-conformance based on the SOP that you have written on data integrity. This is what non-conformity is. This is what I take a picture of that scenario, that observation, and I keep it. I use that as my objective evidence in writing my report. Also, most times I love as an auditor to put these pictures in collage form behind the reports for references, so that they could also know how better to close their actions, how better to develop root causes to close their actions. We have an auditor, we have clients, we have fee. An auditor is the person who is qualified, it's the most important one, who is competent and qualified to audit, to perform an audit. The auditee is the organization or the facility of the person being audited. Same for the client. But the auditor must be qualified. We also have a lead auditor. He's the one who manages the auditor. So he's one who will see what his responsibility is later when we're looking at the competency and the qualifications of auditors. But this is what the definitions I think we need for now as we go forward. What is principle of auditing? I see it more as what are the things that I need to, or the behaviors, the characteristics that I need to have as an auditor. And I will tell you without doubt that integrity is super important. Integrity as an auditor would help you gain respect and trust from your auditees. You should be able to carry out an audit that when a repeat audit is being done, they will understand that the reason for your decisions. Nobody wants a situation where there's a second audit or you have audited a particular place and you give them a failed rating and someone comes to re-audit the particular place. This has happened. I'm using this scenario because it really has happened. And to audit this place and they wonder why did he fail them? They have this. There should be fair representation. Please, auditors should take off prejudice and bias when you audit. It is very key. Integrity and fair representations really matter. Prejudice and bias will break your professionalism. You should have these two. Due professional care. This is very key. I will talk more about this as we go into it. You will understand what it means. Because when your auditees see that you are professional in the way you handle an audit, they would look forward to listening to you. They would hardly argue with you. They would really want to close the actions or the proposals that you bring forth. Confidentiality is very key. You don't want to go into an audit and say, oh, when I was in site B, I do know that these people were just doing this. No, do not talk about a particular site at a different site. It's wrong. Confidentiality. You have been called to audit a particular organization. You shouldn't go talking about that organization because of the privilege you are given at a different organization. Independence. An auditor should be independent. You should be able to make a fair decision yourself. You should not be influenced. You should follow the evidence-based approach, which I have been singing or hammering in the past 3 minutes since I started, right? Evidence-based approach. I've told you my evidence-based approach is I get a finding. I would merge these two together for you now. Evidence-based approach, evidence and risk-based approach. I think you should take it together. I give you an example. The same example I used earlier about data integrity. I go to one of the validation department and I see there has been some scribbling. It's okay. It's a mistake. It's a typographical error, or he forgot to follow the standards, right? Then I go to manufacturing and I see the same mistake 2 times, quality 3 times. Now my risk-based thinking has kicked in. All of those evidences, I have taken pictures. Don't forget, I have noted it as an observation. But what is changing now? Because of the repeat occurrence, I am moving it from an ordinary observation to a minor finding. And because I am also seeing other documentation issues, I am moving into a major finding. Because this is not normal. This is a data integrity issue. And I've said risk-based, because what you are producing is not going to be flushed into the toilet. It's going to be for consumers. Data integrity is key. Patient safety is key. Consumer safety is key. The fact that you always meet regulatory standards is key. Then I am giving you a major finding here. This is where evidence and risk-based approach should come. We would look at this in the next slide, but I think I've explained most of it already. But you see where integrity comes to play. Performing your work with honesty, diligence, and responsibility. Observe and comply with legal requirements. According to your standards of auditing, according to the principles of auditing, and according to the business legal structure, fair presentation, please, no bias, no prejudice. no disagreements. No, don't be the one to raise up conflicts. You're an auditor. You should take due professional care. You should allow these people respect you. I'll tell you something interesting. When you prepare super well for your audit ahead of time, we'll talk about preparation of audit. But when you prepare very well, you find out that you follow your plan the first day. The auditee, when he's expecting you on the second day or the third day, whenever, they would be way prepared ahead of you because they know that you follow the principles. They know that you follow the timeline. They'll be ready and you'll finish your audit shorter because they are already on point. Confidentiality, we've talked about this. Independence, auditor should be independent of the activity being audited. The example here is this. I am quality manager, right? There is no reason I should be auditing my department. I could audit other sections of the manufacturing unit, but my department should be audited by some other auditor who has been trained to audit. For example, finance, marketing can come auditing. And based on the standards that we have set also, I should not audit myself. This is what it's about. Then we talked about the evidence-based approach and respect for others and avoid being self-opinionated. Because I am so knowledgeable in cosmetics does not mean I know all the principles of cosmetics around the world. So when you're auditing a system and they're bringing your ideas or why they think this is this way, you should listen to them with an open mind. The auditor should be confident yet humble. The auditor should avoid telling what to do. Listening to them. You cannot, my recommendation is this. But if you say this is what you do and it keeps you, this is the principle. Because you know it doesn't make you the master of all. Some people, the people, auditors you auditing could have been doing this for years. You only have an idea to it. So great. Now we go into managing an audit program. This would have, on one hand, defining program objectives, the audit program objectives, completing the audits needed, and reviewing the results. We'll break this further into different angles, but I want us to look at this chart. The focus should be on this chart on my right-hand side, right? And it's the PDCA approach to managing an audit. So the plan, do, check, act. The plan here tells us, which we'll also see when we go in to the slides further, what the audit objectives should be. You should plan them. This should be a part of your plan. What are the risks and opportunities that I foresee in this audit? Develop an audit schedule. Who would be auditing? Check the competencies. Do a year plan. When I audit my organization, I have my plan set at the beginning of the year and already signed and approved by top management to show their involvement, to show their commitment, and also to let the team, the functional units understand that this is agreed by top management. Prepare for your audit. Implement the schedule. There's been signed, you have trained your staff for auditing, you've conducted the audit, this is the do part. Monitor the schedule, ensure it is being followed. For example, I have 97 suppliers and I have to audit them through the year. The ones who have been audited are the ones. Follow it, monitor it, ensure that there are no overdue audits. Complete your audits. Follow the act part. Follow up on the actions. You are not just an auditor who has come to audit, throw out findings or observations, and say, I'll see you next year. My recommendation every time, and you see it over and over through these slides, through my session today, that you should be part of, you should go through the CAPAs that they send to you. After you've audited, you've given your report, the CAPAs will come. Ensure that they have put in robust root causes. Because, for example, you are going to audit them the next year. You don't want to see some of the things that you picked and you think has been corrected and they are happening again. Challenge the root cause. Auditing is about continuous improvement. This is how I see it. I'm not just auditing you because I want to count more number of hours on shoulders that I have been an auditor, but because I want you to be better. I want you to deliver the right product, the right consumers at the right quality and cost. This is what it's about. So this is the mindset that you should take as an auditor into auditing, right? The objectives should include the management priorities, legal and contractual agreements, requirements, the product and process performance, the risk rating, the results of the previous audits. We'll talk about this. I'll tell you when this comes into play and the level of maturity. So define roles. How do we establish the audit program? We should define roles and responsibilities. I told you that. Who are those who are carrying out this audit? You are the leader, all right. We should talk about all of this during the audit. Competency of the personnel, the extent of the audit program, the risk identification and evaluation, and the resources identification. We'll look at this individually as we go. While implementing your audit program, you should define the objectives. Yes. Why are we auditing? It's because we want to ensure that we consistently meet the set of standards according to QMS, for example, 9001 2015, XYZ company SOPs, European Medical Association rules, and define it. This is why. And what is the scope of our audit? The scope of our audit is XYZ manufacturing site 1, and it excludes the supply chain arm, or it includes the scope should be clear. The auditee should not be wondering, oh, are they going to check our warehouses in Aalborg? Are they going to check our warehouses in Aarhus? You know, they shouldn't be thinking about that. It should be very clear. And please always mention your criteria, and rating for the audit. For an internal audit, this is already stated in your SOP, how audits are going to be rated, what a failed audit is, what makes a failed audit, how many major findings makes a failed audit, how many makes a green audit or a pass audit. Please define that in your scope and in the program that you are going to prepare. I will also tell you about this when you send the audit plan ahead of time. It should also be a part of it. It should be very clear. You shouldn't be hiding things from the auditor. Select the audit method. Are we going to use an online audit? Are we going to use physical audits? Is it going to be hybrid? I will do documentation online and physical check of manufacturing, or I will do, I did one very interesting one time. I did the virtual reality virtual reality audit is awesome. I think you should try it also. Then choose your audit team, assign responsibilities, especially as lead auditor. This should be very clear. Manage the audit outcome, maintain audit records. This is like the audit report, right? The findings that you put together during the audit. Auditing is very interesting. It will be stressful when it comes to the last part, where you have to write your report. I don't know if I told you about the colleague who I used to have who says, oh, I really love auditing. My challenge is that I don't like writing reports. So it's a whole package. You can't love auditing and not like writing reports. So you need to be ready. Maybe one day I'll talk about how you could make writing reports easy, or we could also talk about when we get to writing reports. The responsibility of the person managing the audit. We'll still talk about this later in the slides. But risk identification and evaluation, forget I told you risk-based approach. When you have a finding, please risk assess it and evaluate it before you call it what it should be. It's very important because this also helps the auditee know that he is okay. I'll be open to it. It makes them feel like, oh, he's on our side, you know, that feeling of being relaxed. They could even come to you and show you something and ask you, what do you think about this? It has happened to me. I'm telling you, what real life situations, when you help them reassess, okay, this is the situation. I see he's very experienced at what he's doing, but you do not have, he's trained, but you have skipped training him for this particular machine because he had the experience from his previous role. I will put it as an observation. If I had seen it in 1, 2, 3 other employees here have been trained on their equipment, but it was skipped for him because of this. Then they know he's on our side. He understands us. They will be very open. You don't want to audit a closed team who hide information from you and all of that. Define the responsibilities, like you mentioned, establish procedures, determine resource requirements, ensure the implementation ensure implementation, ensure records are managed and maintained, monitor, review, and improve program approval of audits from top management. Get their approval. We talked about this at the beginning, that you should get the approval of top management, because this also shows commitment from the rest of the team or the auditees. So while conducting an audit, what should we be doing? We should start by initiating the audit. I will talk more about that, or we could talk about it now. It's I will say initiating the audit starts with the audit plan and creating a communication line between you and your audit team. Ensure you have a plan, a robust one. When I'm going to audit, I have a plan. I'm very detailed plan. The plan has what I will be wearing. I mean, like the size of my safety boot, the size of the gowning that I'll be putting on, so that the auditee is prepared ahead of time. The scope, the program, the scope of the audit, the areas of the audit, the documentation of requiring. I would have gone through the previous audit report, right? And I will tell you what I will need from the previous audit. But you should be able to put all of these things in a plan and send to the auditee. Preparing the audit activities, all of these things should be in your plan. Also, conducting it according to your plan. Don't forget what I mentioned, that this shows your professionalism when you can conduct an audit according to the plan that you have shared. Preparing and distributing the report in time. You have mentioned that all my reports, or according to your SOP, if it's an internal audit, that the report should be sent 28 days after the audit, and CAPA should be 30 days after this, and all of that. But this also shows professionalism. Ensure your audit is complete. And when is an audit complete? Yes, your SOP might say it is when the CAPA has been delivered. I will tell you, it is when the last action on the CAPA has been closed. That's what I count. That's what I count as a completed audit. Yeah, because for me, auditing is about improvement. It's about continuous improvement. I want you to have improved all through the life cycle of the audit. Thank you. So conducting audit follow-up, very key. Understand what their actions have been, that they have a robust root cause to the findings. So have some pre-audit activities as an auditor. Don't just walk into an audit like I think we talked about scope, which is selecting the areas to be audited, scheduling the audit. We talked about that. Gather and review background information. I am going to audit a supplier for one of my active ingredients. I want to know a little bit about their processes so that I know what to ask, when to ask, and how to ask. What part of the world are they from? What type of breathing should I? What type of dressing should I? What colors? Please do some background information, because your professionalism is also key. How do they perceive questions? All of this. And you test it when you get there, because you test the open questions, you test the way they respond and all of that, because you want to get the best out of it. Then develop an audit plan, which is very key, and make sure you send that ahead of time. If you are lazy, please send it 30 days before the time. 30 days is the minimum. If you are great, you could do before that, but it's always better at least 30 days before you audit the thing. Finalize all administrative details. I always tell people, open the communications lines to audit team early, not when you get on site. Start talking to them. No matter if you have nothing to say, tell them, oh, you have last audit report, send it to me. Look at the actions. Can you send me how you close the CAPAs? My safety boot is 45. Please, do you have 45? My gowning is this. Oh, I'm vegetarian. If you guys are going to plan lunch, just know I'm vegetarian and I'm not having this. Open the communication lines, and they feel the ease. I feel the ease when I'm being audited like that. And I think people will feel the ease when I go on site to audit. It's always relational. Always relational. I know what I'm talking about. Good. This is what, I think I talked about this already. Communicate with the auditee upfront, send and align the audit plan. So not just send, this is the audit plan, follow it. Nope. Get feedbacks from them, ask them at the bottom of your email when you send the audit plan. If there are concerns, please write back to me so we could align, or could they have schedule a meeting to align this audit plan. Ensure you send information about the audit objectives, scopes, and the audit team. Who will be coming with you to the audit? Mention. Get the same information about their reservations or whatsoever and send to the auditee so that you have request documents ahead of the audit if required. I always say request so that you can be prepared before they come. It's always very important to do that. You don't want to look at all the documents, and especially in one-day audits. How do you do it? So maybe when you have a 5-day audit, I don't know what starts with. Most times you never have enough time to audit. So request documents ahead of time. Yes, while preparing the audit plan, I think we've talked about this a lot, but these are the minimum things that must be there. I will pick 2 things here. I think I have talked about just a little. I think the audit criteria and the rating is very important. Put that in your plan when you send to them. This is the rating we are following, the rating according to your SOP, SOP 500, and this is what we are following. No, we are following the rating according to FDA this. We are following the rating according to this. It is very key to have this. This is very key. Please, let's always have this in our plans. Tell them the time for the opening meeting. The opening meeting will be starting by 9 o'clock, by 8:30 a.m. It will run for 45 minutes. It will run for 30 minutes. This is the agenda. I always put my agenda. My agenda of my opening meeting is introductions from your side, introductions from my side, and my auditors. I will introduce them. You could talk about your company. You have 5-10 minutes to talk about that. And I'll tell you about my criteria, the scope. I'm just going to go through that audit plan again in that minute. That's what I do in my opening meeting. Then I will tell you, I would really follow my audit plan, which I've sent to you. I have created it in a map, like manner where I start from the raw material warehouse and end up in the finished goods warehouse. This is how I would be approaching the audit. And this is, if there are information you want to check from the previous audit, you should put that in your plan also. And this is what I think you should do. Preparing for the auditor, for the audit as an auditor, I think you, as a lead auditor, you should assign the work up front to your audit team. You don't want to do this on the day of the audit. Prepare ahead of the audit to have meetings with your audit team, and these are the areas I think you should look at. Documentation you handle. I will handle all process activities, or you look at validation, I will look at qualification, and all of that. Prepare your working documents ahead of time. For example, for third-party audit, if I'm going to certify for ISO, I will have my checklist prepared upfront, and I ensure that I'm using it. I had an audit one time for a pharmaceutical firm, I think somewhere in Ghana, and we used this robust checklist, and on the day of an hour before the closing meeting, we already had the results and the report ready. You wouldn't believe it. But this is what preparation, this is what preparation does for you. So go through documents ahead, prepare your questions ahead, if possible, from documentations that you have read, clarify some things when you get on site. The preparation is the key part. When you go there, they know he is prepared, he's ready to help us. Auditees can see through the auditor, the way you also can see through them. The open meeting, what should happen there? I'd mentioned how you should have an agenda for it. It's the most important thing. Confirm again the audit plan, introduce your team, let them introduce themselves, let them introduce the company if it is a third-party audit or if it's a second-party audit. Then share the communication on channels that you would like. Oh, I'd like you to interfere. Ask me questions when we are talking along the line, or you could bring a documentation, we will review it. Documentation, for me, documentation seen through the process should be brought back to the office when we review documentation, so I can easily go through them one more time. But just let them know what channels you have. Every day we would have a brief pre-closing meeting every day, or let's step out meeting every day. And at the end, last day, the third day of this audit, we'll have a closing meeting 1 hour after we shut down auditing, which will be 3:30 p.m. and it means we will stop auditing 2:30 and start a closing meeting at 3:30 just to give us time for break and to gather our findings and to be able to give a good report. I always, I think we'll see that later, present my closing meeting in a PowerPoint. So it means I need time to be able to articulate all I've done into that report. As an auditor, you should have flow from your preparations and follow it. I've told you that risk and evidence-based approach is very key. There's something else I think every auditor should do. We have a training about is the use of mind maps. Every auditor should know how to use mind maps, so we could also know how to use them in our own minds, right? Use good communication key skills, especially when asking questions. Keep eye contact. Let them see that you are involved. Listening is very key for an auditor. You don't want to write the wrong things in your report, and you want to let them know that I heard you and can see what you are saying. If that can be expressed in that way. But yes, open and be very receptive. This really helps you as an auditor. While conducting your audit, and an auditor, you should what? Collect your evidence by what? Seeing, citing, hearing, understanding. I can't believe I didn't write snapping pictures. It is very important for me. Okay, yes, I put that you should take pictures because your memory. For me, I love to take pictures and put notes there so that I could also transfer, put them into the reports and I understand where it's from. You don't want to have a conflict in closing meeting and someone is saying, oh, but this was not the situation there. This is what but I took a picture. You allowed me to take a picture and this is it. This is the date stamp, and this is what happened. Please always have this. What is your observation? What system has failed? This is how you should write the report. What evidence do you have for it? What reference, standard reference for the observation? I have seen that the trainings for Department A was designed at the beginning of the year and is followed through. But for Department B, it is designed, but it's not in line with the general training that the HR has put in place. And your SOP says that all trainings must be aligned according to your SOP. Validations should be reviewed and signed up yearly. It's your SOP that says it. But the last time your validation was signed was 5-10 years ago. Or job description should be signed at the minimum 1 month after the employee has resumed his job. But while you went through the process, you saw so many job descriptions just signed a week from when I came in for the audit. And okay, if the SOP was just written, then that's a different case. Your risk-based approach will kick in and you say this is just an observation. But if it is consistent, almost you have 100 employees and 99 of them don't have job descriptions or job descriptions have not been signed or they are just somewhere in the file, then this is what I'll reference it to tell you that this is either a minor or a major observation. So it should be risk-based, it should be classified. Is it critical? Is it minor? Is it major? This should be your mindset as an auditor. Great. Like I mentioned, closing meeting, give time to allow for you to think through the observation and the findings and reclassify anyone you think you want to reclassify. Clarify also from the auditee, okay, so that you don't have any clashes or conflicts. This is one thing as an auditor, you need to try to avoid conflicts. During auditing, I always like to have PPTs, presentations, so I feel it's more professional. They see me as a great auditor when I have my closing meeting already drafted in PowerPoint, right? The scope, the purpose covered, note good practices is very important. You cannot go through an audit and say you didn't find anything good on site. Please document good practices as you go through and have a list of them when you present before you talk about the findings or your observation, whatever you think you found. There are some good things you have seen there. I can tell you for free. I have audited some sites and I have taken things that I have gone back to implement in my own sites that were wonderful. So you cannot be the best. You cannot say you didn't see anything good done. I doubt if there's anything good with you too. But yes, this is the approach. You should always make sure that you have good practice, that you have found out, and that you have also implemented. Great. Conducting the audit. Here we were talking about report writing. Ensure your report is written and delivered within the agreed timeline. For me, I always suggest, please find time, write your reports 15 to 30 days and give it to the auditee. 15 days. This is going to write your report. I try to write mine 15 days. 2 weeks is always my timeline. Then MS Word is preferable, but you can always PDF it before you send. Ensure you use clear and concise words. Ensure it's properly classify and prioritize your findings. I list it. I put my findings. I put the classification, and I put a summary of each of the key findings. We could have another session on how to write an audit report, and you understand how you can make it unambiguous and how to make it easy. Put recommendations also. Put those good practices at the top. Put your findings, your recommendations, findings, but make it very. And at the back of my report, that's the appendix or what you call the references. I always put the pictures that I have taken and the notes. This shows them that yes, he was here to help us. Great. Audit completion and follow-up. Ensure all audit-related activities are completed. All audit-related activities, it means fill the CAPA follow-up. Don't just leave the audit or the auditee to themselves. Follow up on the CAPA. The key, like I always say, is ensure that the root causes that they have put in place is robust. Ensure the CAPA is sent in accordance to the agreed timeline, 30 days or 3 months from the time of the audit, whatever it is. Ensure it is. Support where you can with ideas. Don't just allow them close this on their own. Great. Now we'll be looking at the competency of an evaluation of auditors. This is very key because this is what brings about great auditors. We will see what makes them competent. We'll see how they could be evaluated in this part. So here we'll be determining what auditors' competence is, establishing auditors' evaluation criteria, selecting appropriate auditor evaluation method, conducting auditor evaluation, how is it done, maintaining and improving auditors' competency. So the ability to apply the knowledge and skill to achieve intended results is what we're looking at when we talk about competency. What behaviors should the auditor have? Ethical, open-minded, diplomatic. But how can you even know if someone is open-minded? You want me to, you say a competent auditor should be open-minded. How do I know he's open-minded? So there's something that has been a push over time that psychometric evaluation should be done for auditors. In psychometric evaluation, you can know who is ethical, like the questions will drive you to know who is diplomatic, who is observant, who has negotiation skills. It's just like when you want to employ a salesperson and you take them through this psychometric evaluation that makes you know how good are they in negotiation or how open are they and all of that. This should also be done as an evaluation criteria for auditors. Auditors should be knowledgeable, skilled, and experienced in the sector they are auditing. Don't take Dominic to go and audit, do a financial audit for bank because I said I'm a certified auditor. So I should only audit in an area where I have skill and experience. So I will tell you also later how to create the file for an auditor, right? So the audit team leader skill and knowledge is also very key. So first things for an organization, this is internal audit, right? Ensure there's an audit SOP, right? Ensure there's an auditor's SOP of what an auditor in this organization should have, or a lead auditor should have this, and an auditor should have this, or a trainee auditor should have this. It should be defined in that SOP. And these are the things that should be there. There should be a qualitative assessment and a quantitative assessment. It should be defined in the SOP for quality for auditors. Let's look more into this. The lead auditor specific competencies: self and auditing leadership, ensure teamwork and cohesiveness through the audit lifecycle, plan and lead the audit, make effective use of the resources. You see, leadership skills are coming here. So don't you think this person should be assessed for leadership? Yes, these are the assessments we're talking about for the auditor. Prevent and resolve conflicts. Lead the audit team top to reach a conclusion. Prepare and complete reports. Should you put a lead auditor who is not happy, who doesn't like writing reports? Some audit reports, I have written one that is 20-something pages or more. Yeah. am I talking about? Even more. So how could you put in someone to lead or to be an auditor who is not willing to write reports? All of these competencies we need to look at. These are the things I need you to write in your lead auditor or your auditor competency SOP. These are the things that should be there. I was talking about evaluation, qualitative and quantitative. Years of experience. Let's look at quantitative now. The years of experience. Do you want to bring in someone who has just stayed 6 months in your business, or 1 year in your business, and 1 year total in, for example, the manufacturing space to be a lead auditor? No. There should be years of experience. There should be education. There should be formal education. You should have conducted some audits if he's going to be a lead auditor, or he should be have gone through some hours of training. My recommendation is always at least 40 hours of training. You should have qualitative behaviors, knowledge, performance of the skills, leadership capabilities. And this can only be assessed through maybe a psychometric evaluation or surveys that are done after the person has completed some audits. You go back and you ask the auditees with questionnaires. This person, when you audited you, did you see this in this person? Did you see this in this person? Did you see this and this? All of these things you need to be able to show true. You need to be able to evaluate so that you can have a file, an auditor's file that has his qualifications, the day he was employed, and all of those things should be in your auditor's file. It should be a package. Don't mix it up with his personal file with HR. So the auditor's evaluation, review of auditor's education, and feedback from surveys. I talked about that. Interviews to ascertain behavioral observation. I always just say do a psychometric evaluation. Observation of audits by a lead auditor. Yes, you can also do a role play if that works. Post-audit review, such as review of past audits, and also look at reports that they have written over time and see how they could be better. But all of these things are the ones that you want to use to evaluate the auditor and put this system of evaluation in an SOP. Have a file that has these documents and follow them. You see what I'm reading here? You should pass the auditor's exam, take a training of at least 40 hours, carry out audit as part of the training and alongside the lead auditor. These competencies should be evaluated at least yearly. I'm not saying repeat it. I'm saying check every year that the file is updated with these things. If you say you should have 3 audits yearly, then you should ensure that this has happened. All of this needs to be put in place, documented and followed, filed for everyone who you put in your audit schedule at the beginning of the year that will be auditing different areas. They must be competent. That is the beginning of failure when I come to audit you and I check your auditor's competency and you have a good schedule, but you don't have competent people to do the audit for you. So here are some ways to achieve these auditor specific competencies. Have certifications like ISO 9001 to 15, 22,000, 2018, a formal education, the general auditor knowledge and skills, at least 40 hours training, like we mentioned, audit experience by supervision, relevant technical expertise. Make sure they have, for example, manufacturing expertise or knowledge. This is very key. Great. Thank you very much. It's been very great having you here today. I really enjoyed talking about this. Like I mentioned, this is one area of my passion. I love auditing. I'm an auditor, lead auditor. I am a consultant. I go to audit different factories, different sites, and I try to be very professional as possible. So I would want you to like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel so I could put more videos like this to learn from. I'm looking at breaking down ISO 19011 into 3 or 4 major episodes where we look at contents one after the other and grow into a great auditor. It's been great having you here. Thank you very much and have a great day. Bye.